What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode with your Young Guns podcast. Uh, before we get into it, I just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for helping us get close to 400. We're almost there, so hopefully we could reach that milestone very soon, as we're on the righteous path of hitting 1K within the year. But if you guys like NHL content concerning any of your teams, because we are diverse when it comes to hockey, we don't speak about about our own favorite team. We speak about American teams as well and other Canadian teams because we are located in Montreal. We try our best to cover every single team, all the daily rumors, news, and basically we make our own predictions too. So don't forget to click the subscribe button and share it with your friends and family if they love hockey content. We try to post consistently, and now is a busy time because we're heading towards the NHL deadline, and we're doing another episode today concerning Artturi Lehkonen, who plays for the worst team in the NHL, our
Yeah,
team, the Montreal Canadiens.
sadly.
Oh,
So
they are the
essentially,
worst in the NHL by a mile.
Lehkonen is currently playing on a 1 year deal that was signed this offseason at $2.3 million. He's a restricted free agent at the end of the season, and he's a hot commodity, apparently. According to Frank Saravelli, there's at least two teams who are showing very strong interest, but there's three teams total that are completely begging for Lehkonen. It was reported that the Rangers are the team that are one of the teams that are highly interested because they did lose Sammy Blaze at the beginning of the season and they need to add to their bottom six. And adding a guy like Atturi Lehkonen who has playoff experience and went to the Stanley Cup Finals this previous playoffs would be a great addition. You have the Minnesota Wild who loves to add more depth because they are a well-rounded team that has a good system in place with a great coach, and you have the Calgary Flames who have their top six already established, but they want to add a playoff experienced piece to their bottom six. Um, Last thing I'm going to say before we get into our discussion for today, Frank Savarelli said that the player I believe in the most, that is the most in demand for the Montreal Canadiens, is indeed Artturi Lehkonen. Everyone was surprised because we all thought it was Ben Sherratt, which we made a video about that. You guys can check that out. Teams see Atturi Lehkonen as this year's version of Blake Coleman. The scouting report on Atturi Lehkonen is that he does everything in his game exceptionally, except Finnish, which is like ironic because he is Finnish. Um, what else did he say? Yeah, so that's the type of guy that teams are really going after, especially top contending teams. I know at least three teams. Yeah, okay, I already said this already. So if we look at Blake Coleman's value back in 2020, this guy fetched a first round pick and a top prospect at the time, Nolan Foote from the Tampa Bay Lightning. So let's get into it, guys. What do you guys think about Atturi Lehkonen's value, and who do you think is going to acquire his services?
I'm shocked. I didn't think he was worth a first round pick. I mean, the guy can't score. Let's be honest, he can't score.
He can't finish, even though he's finished, according to Frank
He
Savarelli.
can't. He can't. Listen, he's a great skater. He's okay at puck handling, but he can't score. I don't see how his value is Blake Coleman like. Uh,
I'll take it, man. I'll take
I'll
it.
take it too. Listen, we're happy if that's apparently rumored. I mean,
No,
like,
this will not be a biased video because we're from Montreal, but
yeah, but listen, in all honesty, I think he's worth maybe a second and a third, maybe, maybe a second and like a prospect that needs like a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's how I see it, right? And obviously, Lehkonen, we know, if you ask any Habs fan and if you've watched any Habs games, you see that Lehkonen. There's a lot of chances that he has where he misses. He misses the net, or you just can't finish, or whatever it is. But I think what's interesting about Artturi Lehkonen, I don't think people talk about it enough, and this is why when Frank Saravelli asked about or talked about Artturi Lehkonen's value, he said, "Oh, he's worth a first round pick and a prospect." The reason why I think that it's accurate, and the reason why I think it makes a lot of sense is because Artturi Lehkonen is one of the most underratedly underappreciated players in the league. What I mean by that is he's not an elite player. He's not going to go and score you 50 points and be that guy that's going to score you points, but he's very, very, very good defensively. He's a great penalty killer. He's very good in the defensive zone. He can play. He can play pretty much anywhere in the lineup, and he'll give you really good production. And what's interesting about Lehkonen as well is, yes, he's not the best finisher. Yes, he doesn't get a lot of points, but he's a guy that works hard, and he's a guy that plays with heart, and he's a guy that is always in the right place at the right time, and he barely ever makes mistakes, and he scores big goals. If you saw the Stanley Cup clinching, the goal that brought Montreal to the Stanley Cup final, it was Artturi Lehkonen that scored it, and so he's a
Playing on the top line. Just
that's
to
it. And I
remind you
think
guys.
what's interesting about Lehkonen is he's a shutdown guy. He's going to play anywhere in the lineup, and I think he's going to help any team in the league because he's a good depth guy to have on your team. He's a guy that gets about 20, 30 points a season, but he's a depth guy at the end of the day, but he's really, really good at what he does. So therefore, that's why he's worth what he's worth. And he's also a guy that's still young, 26 years old, $2.3 million contract. He's a guy that, on the right team, in the right system, with the right coaching staff, could maybe score a few more goals and pot a few more points and, help the team out even more. And a team that's in the playoffs, I could definitely see Artturi Lehkonen being a huge part of a team going for a cup run because he does everything right. He does the right things. He does the little things. And that's what makes him so valuable.
And you also have to take into consideration when you're a team like the Calgary Flames, New York Rangers, Minnesota Wild, your top six is already established. So
Yeah.
what these teams are looking for is good depth. Guys that are consistent and responsible at doing the dirty work essentially. So there you go. Atturi Lehkonen comes into play. He's a guy that you're gonna need on the penalty kill. A guy who's gonna play very well defensively. Okay, so you could essentially put him like up and down the lineup, like we said, because that's what the Canadians have done with him on multiple occasions. So his value does make sense when you're taking that into consideration. When you
Yes.
look at him points wise, like Luca was saying, not at all. And maybe that's why a lot of Habs fans, we don't maybe appreciate Artturi Lehkonen's value to a team, especially our team. So and other teams do. I mean, for years now, I've always been hearing, a lot of guys. You cannot criticize his offensive game. Not every player is going to be a two-way player where they're able to play offensively good and defensively good.
Exactly.
Artturi Lehkonen is like Philip Dano, for example, who we lost during the offseason, um, who is I would say superior when it comes to his defensive game. So a lot of teams are desperately in need of that because they have the offensive aspect already done. It's already checked off, but they're missing more defensive players, and that's why Atturi Lehkonen's value is so high. And we're going to be getting into the teams right now, starting off the New York Rangers. Actually, I'm going to answer Daniel Kim's question. Which players would you guys want the Rangers to acquire before and at the deadline? Uh,
Well,
to
we kind of already addressed it in the Rangers video. So if you want to check
Yeah,
that out, you can go check
Well,
that out.
if since we're talking about the Habs, I mean Ben Shiraz would be a good one.
And obviously,
Artturi Lehkonen,
Lekkonen's another one too. So
yeah.
those are two
We've linked
players from,
Claude Giroux too as well with
Jacob
the
Chikrin.
Rangers. Jacob
yes,
Chikrin.
pretty much any player that's available at the moment, the Rangers are interested in, apart from Marc-Andre Fleury. So
Yeah, it's a fun time to be a New York Rangers
the
fan
next
because
the next video
we,
is going to be JT Miller, so that one too.
And
yeah,
listen,
JT
the
Miller's
The
connected to the
Habs and
Rangers too.
The Rangers, I'm pretty sure are gonna make a deal. Jeff Gordon's involved with the Habs now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and that's
inevitable.
something we're gonna get into like right now actually. So just to cover your question, Daniel, um, yeah, we made a video concert covering all that. Literally most of our trade rumor videos, were essentially related to the Rangers one way or another. Okay, so what about Pavelski? Okay, so Pavelski is an interesting case. Does Pavelski want to sign an extension with the Dallas Stars, believing that they're still good enough to be a playoff team next year, even though right now they're in the limbo and they're fighting for a wild card spot? That's up to Pavelski. But if he wants to chase a cup, then yes, I think he will get traded, and the Rangers will heavily be interested in acquiring his
Yes,
services. And
absolutely.
he's also been linked to the Minnesota Wild. But as we get closer to the deadline and we have a more clear idea of what happens with guys like Joe Pavelski, based off the team's performance and what his demands are, then we'll be able to make a video, assessing what's going to happen and what teams are interested. But
Anyways, moving on to
yeah,
Lehkonen.
thanks for the question, and we appreciate it. So the New York Rangers, according to the Athletic, Chris Jury, who's the current general manager
Yes.
of the New York Rangers, has a relationship with Jeff Gordon. So there's a fit there, potentially between both teams. Like I said, Sammy Blaze being injured for the rest of the season, Lehkonen would be a perfect addition to replace a guy like that. So I want to hear your thoughts, essentially, if you think the New York Rangers are a good fit for Artturi Lehkonen.
I think Artturi Lehkonen would be a perfect fit for the Rangers. And the reason I think that is because number one, he's a bottom player, he's a bottom feeder, but he's also really, really good depth guy to have. And I think the Rangers lack a lot of guys that are, yes, he's not necessarily the best scorer, but he's a shutdown guy. And I feel like on a Rangers team, on a third line, you know, in a role like that, maybe playing with a guy like Lafreniere, let's say, right? I could see a situation where Artturi Lehkonen plays more of the defensive side of the game and has more of an opportunity where he's, the one retrieving the pucks and the one going in the corner and battling, and then feeding a guy like Alexis Lafreniere, right, to try to generate some offense. I also think, the Rangers, they're going to look at depth guys because I think it's also a cheap contract. If you look at the Rangers, right, very good team, built really, really well. They've played very, very well this season. But I think a depth guy like Lehkonen is exactly what they need to make a playoff push and to go to, to the Stanley Cup and contend for the Stanley Cup, because that's the most, important thing that the Rangers want. So I think there's definitely room for Lehkonen there. And I think just like that, I think that's probably the team that I see him going to, just because I think the Rangers need a player exactly like him, a guy who can perform in the playoffs, be that shutdown guy, but also get you the odd goal here and there when you need it as well. Because he is a guy that, he parks in front of the net, he'll get those deflections, he'll get those rebounds. And yes, you're going to be a little bit frustrated because sometimes he may miss the net, but, he works hard and does other things right too.
I mean,
So
look, the Rangers have enough finishers, so I don't think they
exactly.
should be complaining about if Lehkonen doesn't finish or not. You have Chris Kreider, you have Zabinajad,
Yeah.
Panarin. Um, oh my God, I was about to say Buchnevich, but he's not there anymore. He plays at St. Louis.
Sammy Blaze there, but he's
I
injured
mean,
too.
Sammy Blaze is injured too. Am I forgetting anybody? I think I am.
Barclay Goodrow plays for them.
Yeah.
Panarin.
Oh yeah, you have Alexei
Lafreniere.
Lafreniere, who's playing much better recently. Capo Caco, still not consistent, I would say. I think that's the nicest way to put it. You
But
have
I
Adam
think
Fox, Jacob
Here,
Chuba, Igor Shesterkin as
here's
a
what I
goaltender.
think will
Fantastic team.
happen. Here's what I think will happen with the Rangers in Montreal. If the Rangers, because there's rumors about them going
Oh,
after
Ryan
Jacob.
Strome too. My bad.
Yeah.
I hear there's rumors going that they're going after Jacob Chikrin and the potential deals, Kravtsov's in the deal and whatnot. I think that if the Chikrin deal falls through, if there even is one, I would see them picking up Sherratt and Lehkonen at the same time.
Yeah, it's
But
possible.
it depends. It depends on what Montreal wants. Are they going to be the type of team that's going to go, hey, we want a first round pick for Sherrod and a first round pick for Lehkonen, or are they willing to do a package like you mentioned, right, with Sherrod and Lehkonen together,
Well,
and they get assets out of that? I don't know what Montreal's going to be willing to do
A
in that sense.
first round pick will have to be definitely included, and I think a
Of course.
top prospect because
yeah,
Montreal Canadiens are rebuilding,
But I think
and
Montreal could get a first for both, is what I'm trying to say. So that's why
if
I
they
don't know.
trade
I
them
don't think there's gonna be a
separately,
package. I think they're gonna be sold separately
Yeah,
because I think their goal is to draft a first round pick player,
absolutely.
opposed to getting a prospect, that maybe does not fit the mold, their system that they're trying to build essentially. Another question by Daniel Kim, quick. The Rangers need to re-sign Strom to the same amount of years as Breadman has left on his contract. Yeah, because they play well together. Essentially, they've been line mates for a couple of seasons now, and it's going to be an interesting case concerning Strom if he's going to get an extension or will he walk for more money during the offseason. But do you guys have anything else to add on the Rangers before we move on to the next team?
no, I think
Uh,
we pretty
not
much
really.
covered everything. I mean, listen, I would honestly, Lehkonen, honestly, I don't see him. If they say he's worth a first round pick, like and Coleman like a prospect, That's even better for Montreal. But realistically, if we're talking about a package deal, I would be happy with a first, a second, and Kravtsov
Look,
or
that
another
that's the
prospect.
that's the assumption that's going around about his value. But once the first deal happens, that's what's gonna set the market moving forward. Every year there's that one deal that always sets the market, and I don't know who's it gonna be. Is it gonna be one of the Montreal Canadian players like Sherratt, Petrie, or Lehkonen that's rumored to be moved, or will it be another top trade candidate that's gonna set the market? We don't
Yeah.
know. So well, it's going to be a very interesting trade deadline, essentially. So
One team that I think Lehkonen would really fit into, just because he plays the defensive style. I could see him doing well in Calgary. They're one of the
Daryl
best.
Sutter would love him on that
Yeah, but
team.
that's what I'm saying. Calgary is one of the best defensive teams in the league, right? And they're second in goals against this season. They obviously don't. They obviously don't. They've got one of the best defenses in the league, so they don't need to worry about that. But what I like about Lehkonen and what he does is he reminds me of a player that kind of plays like Daryl Sutter's system, a player that Daryl Sutter would absolutely love. And the reason for that is because he's very, very, very good defensively, and he's one of the he does the right things. He's on a penalty kill, whatever. And Daryl Sutter likes to play a really defensive style, and I think Lehkonen fits that. He fits that mold perfectly. He's a guy that could play on the top nine. And I think if Calgary needs a penalty killer, they've got a guy, and he's very fast too. Lehkonen, he's a really decent fast player. He's gonna go in the corners. He's gonna fight. So I think for that move and that situation, I could definitely see Calgary making a move, because I think that's a perfect fit for him too.
What prospect would we get from them?
That's a good
I mean, it
question.
depends. It
They
depends.
don't really have any top line, top
Well,
top of the
they've
line
got
guys.
They
they've
have
got
B
some decent.
prospects to
And even
give
their
up.
first round pick, like let's be honest, it's gonna be low.
No, but
You know,
even at that, they've got
No,
some
it's gonna
guys
be
that
pretty
are.
high because wait, we're sorry to cut you off. Calgary's not gonna be a team that's gonna go deep into the playoffs. So
well,
if you make a deal with Calgary, that's a top 20 pick right there.
you never know in the playoffs, right? Like, look, Montreal they didn't expect Montreal going to the
Yeah,
Stanley
I know, I
Cup.
know, I
Yeah.
know. But if you look
Anything
at all
could
the
happen.
teams,
What I
if you look
will
at all
say,
the teams heading in the off, and you're
what I
Calgary,
Did we lose Chris?
I think we lost Chris. But anyways, going back to what I was saying about Calgary. I mean, look, their prospect pool is not bad. There's Jacob Pelletier, who I don't think they're going to trade because he's their best prospect. They've got a guy like Matthew Coronado, who's an interesting guy as well, and could definitely play that role perfectly. They've got Connor Zary as well as another
Luca,
guy that
we
they
all
could
got cut
move up.
off.
What?
Did we
we
all
all
get
got
cut off?
Yeah. So I don't know what happened there.
No.
Sorry, guys, for the viewers.
Well,
Uh,
it's
I
it's
guess
all
I'm
good.
I'm
I
here
mean,
now.
me and Luca still heard each other, heard each other, but
Oh, so it was me essentially that got cut off.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
just you. Sorry, brother,
Anyways,
but it's all good.
we
Okay,
were
so the
going
video's
back
not
to
ruined. Okay, good news.
no,
No.
well, anyways, it's all good. But no, we were just talking about the Calgary prospects that they had. So look, they've got Matthew Coronado, who's an interesting guy. I don't know if they move him, but I'm saying in terms of prospects, Calgary've got some decent guys. They've got Yan Kuznetsov, who's a decent defenseman, Jeremy Poirier. I'm sure if Calgary wants to trade a B-level prospect, maybe a guy like Jeremy Poirier or a guy like Yan Kuznetsov on defense, that could be something that they could look at in terms of their forward core. Obviously, there's Connor Zary, who's an interesting one as well, that maybe Calgary decides to move. I don't know if they move that for Artturi Lehkonen, but I'm saying in terms of prospects, Calgary've got some decent players. And so there's definitely something there that Montreal can look at in order to strike a deal with them. Obviously, Jacob Pelletier would be the ideal candidate, but I don't think Calgary moves him just because he's been very, very good for them this season in their AHL team, and even before that. And I think that he's just been a really good prospect. So I don't know if Calgary moves him, but I think if you want to be able to make a trade with the Canadiens, Calgary definitely have the pieces necessary, and they have the first round pick too. So they definitely have the pieces that they need in order to trade for a guy like Artturi Lehkonen.
And it's funny that you mentioned Calgary because again, another team that has their top six already, set. You have Manjapane, Tachuk,
Yeah,
Monahan, Goudreau, Lindholm. So essentially, you had a guy like Lehkonen, but what's actually funny is you have Blake
yes,
Coleman on that team, and if you put Lehkonen on a line with Blake Coleman, essentially, you're kind of trying to rebuild that Tampa Bay line that
yeah,
they had, where you had Barkley Goudreau on his line, who is known to be very good defensively. So you're pairing Lehkonen up with Coleman. Essentially, it's somewhat similar to what Tampa Bay had as their third line between, and having
Yeah,
a duo like Coleman and Lehkonen would be very beneficial for Coleman since he played with
absolutely.
Goudreau for two deep playoff runs and won two Stanley Cups with them. So I think that's a good fit. Moving on to the next team, the Minnesota Wild. They're a team that everyone I would say except Kaprizov, is interchangeable in the lineup. You could play up and down the lineup because they're a very well coached team. Everyone, is essentially good defensively, I would say, but they're also good offensively. Everyone pulls their weight. I think they have four solid lines, and adding a guy like Lehkonen just adds more depth. But not only that, you know,
He's a
you're
young
adding
guy.
more
He
defensive.
could stay there longer too. He's not like they have a few older guys that they have 1 year left or you know
He adds more defense to already defensive team, I would say.
Yeah,
So that's definitely a good fit. Like all three teams we mentioned so far are all good fits for Lehkonen. It all
no,
comes down to what are they willing to pay. And
that's
Minnesota
it.
does have top prospects, but there's no way in hell they're gonna move a guy like Rossi or Boldy. And I know we
No,
made a Minnesota
yeah, of
video, and like
course,
we
no
mentioned,
chance.
maybe they might if they get if they want to go for a top fish, maybe they might be willing to move like a guy like Addison. But we got a lot of like pushback and like no way,
Yeah,
he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be in the lineup next year. And I totally agree. I don't think Minnesota's looking to trade um any top prospect. I think they just want to add without touching their younger players in their prospect pool. So so it's gonna be an interesting scenario for the Minnesota Wild and what they're willing to give up for Lehkonen.
yeah, and I think what's interesting too about them is even at that, like you go and look at the teams that Minnesota's got, right? They're a very well balanced team. They're a well coached team, like you mentioned, but also they need a like I know I keep stressing this enough, and I've repeated it a few times, but I think every single team in the NHL wants a guy like Artturi Lehkonen, right? And what's unfortunate for Artturi Lehkonen is that he's on a bad Montreal Canadiens team. But Artturi Lehkonen is the type of guy that can go on any single team that's in the playoffs and make a huge impact for them. And so whether it's Minnesota, whether it's the Rangers, whether it's Calgary, whether it's whoever the teams that are interested or whoever acquires him, because I do think he's going to get traded, um, they're going to love him and he's going to be a fan favorite. And the reason why I think he's going to be a fan favorite is because he does the little things so well and he's so good at it defensively. I'm talking about that, like you won't even the fact that he doesn't score goals or whatever, or the fact that he doesn't finish won't even cross your mind because you're going to see him go in the defensive zone. You're going to see him win the puck battle. You're going to see him make a pass, and you're going to see him get off the ice, and it's going to lead to a scoring chance. Or you're going to see him block a shot, or you're going to see him do this. You're going to be like, oh my god! And I think Minnesota fans are going to fall in love with him if he goes there. I think the Ranger fans are going to fall in love with him if he goes there, and I think Calgary fans we're going to love him when they go there. And I think any team that gets him is going to love him because he's really, really good
Like
at it.
like I like yeah, like I said before, um, analysts have said that like throughout the years since Atturi Lehkonen has come to the league, that he's a very underrated player, a very underappreciated player as
Yes.
well. Every team would love him. So Habs fans like cool it and like respect him for what he's able to do. Don't hate him for what he cannot do, because you can't have a guy that does it all. You can't. That's called a generational talent, and that's McDavid, and that's a Draisaitl,
Yeah.
okay, or Sidney Crosby, or an Alexander Ovechkin. So you know, it's crazy in Montreal sometimes. The expectations, the fan base,
No, but
need
like
to
for
cool
me,
it down. And a guy like Lehkonen does not deserve the hate that he's received. Uh, it's up to the general managers to address the needs when it comes to scoring and stuff. You cannot put that on a guy like Lehkonen who's good defensively, not offensively.
well, it's not that I don't want to say that he's not good offensively. I think if he finds a way, I think he's a guy that gets a lot of chances. I think it's just a matter of if he can work on his finishing. I think he's a guy that could score 20 goals. And I know
Yeah.
that might be a bold take, but he's a guy that I think he generates a lot of chances, and he's a guy that gets a lot of high danger chances and puts himself in good positions. That if he could work on his finishing, he could be a guy that scores 20.
He is
On the,
clutch though. I gotta be
on the
honest.
right
He is
team, yeah.
clutch.
That's what I'm
He,
saying.
yeah, he comes up in big moments when you least expect it.
That's it. So
Um,
that's why I'm saying that's why I think he can score 20 because he's the type of
yeah,
guy that with the right finishing and because of the clutch moments and scoring in big moments, he could definitely be a guy that
exactly.
does that. So for sure.
So very quickly, we're gonna get into our two last teams. These teams haven't been confirmed, but we consider them as the Young Guns podcast predictions for these two teams.
Yeah.
So starting off with the Florida Panthers, I don't know which one of us mentioned this last time, but it was definitely said on the podcast. We're going to address it
I
very
think it was me
quickly.
that said it in the Florida video.
Uh,
Yeah, the Florida
I
video.
mean, I brought it up during like when we were discussing about making this video, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So essentially, what we proposed as a panel was that if Lehkonen were to get traded to Florida, and since they want a defenseman as well, and Sherrod has been linked to the Florida Panthers, why not make a package deal and send both those players there? And in return, we get a guy like probably Owen Tippett, who has been heavily speculated to be on the move as part of a big deal heading towards the deadline. So they're dangling him as a trade bait.
Yeah.
So I think he would be coming their way, potentially a first round pick
The
and
first round
other
pick would have
things.
to be the first
Yeah,
round pick in 2023 because the 2022 they don't have it would have to be included. But I think there's another guy too that I think Montreal may have interest in, and that's Grigory Denisenko from Florida. He's a young prospect, 21 years old, and he hasn't really lived up to his stride in Florida. But I think with a change of scenery and a team like Montreal who's looking to develop players, and he's got a lot of skill, that kid. I could see a situation where Florida turns around and goes, you know what? We'll give you Owen Tippett, right? Because there's rumors about him potentially leaving anyways. We'll give you the first round pick. And then as a sweetener, if they really need to, because Florida's getting both Sherrod and Lehkonen, I think they could maybe throw in Denisenko too. And Montreal would get two prospects and a first round pick
yeah,
for
because they
both
have
of
a
those.
deep prospect pool. So
That's it.
I
So I
mean,
could see
that's
that
just a
happening,
proposal on our part. Don't take our word for it.
obviously.
There's no links to
No, no.
Lehkonen in Florida. This is
No.
just a Young Guns prediction. The
Yeah.
other three teams have been confirmed though, and the
Yeah.
last team you want to mention is the Boston Bruins. And the Boston Bruins is because they're a team that needs depth. They added Nick Foligno, they added Eric Holla during the offseason, but it's still not good enough, in my opinion. They're at most a team that's gonna make the playoffs, yes, in a wild card spot, but they're not gonna go deep. But if you got to add a guy like Artturi Lehkonen to a team that already has an established top six, which is a common trend with all these teams that are interested in Lehkonen, they have an established top six. They want to add to their depth and solidify their depth with someone that's defensively responsible. Go get a guy like Atturi Lehkonen. What are they willing to give up? That's interesting. And in
They
my
all,
opinion,
they
someone
all
that we should target, I'm sorry, not we, but Montreal Canadiens should target, is that if Carey Price and Jake Allen are indeed gone by the offseason,
I know exactly what you're going to say.
go after Swayman.
I was just about to say that. But I don't think that that's going to happen because I think Boston's not going to want to move him. But I think in terms of what's gone on and everything, you look at the Boston Bruins, right? They've got three goalies right now. I don't know how long Rask has left in Boston, so I don't know if they're willing to move Swayman for something that's short term. But I also think that with Lehkonen, what's interesting about the Bruins is that the Bruins don't have the best prospect pool, but they still have guys, right? And so I think for the Bruins, if the Canadians could find a way to maybe go after a guy like Jack Studnicka. And I know that Jack Studnicka isn't the best player, but he's a guy that's got potential. He's a guy that's played NHL games. And I think if he's given an opportunity on a team that's struggling like Montreal and put in a position where he plays higher in the lineup, you can definitely see a situation where maybe he could thrive over there. Because again, he is a first round pick. And look, I'm not saying that this is a possibility. And obviously, I don't know if the Bruins are going to do it. But maybe because the Bruins don't really have the prospects, and I don't know if they're going to be willing to move the picks. Maybe they go, you know what, we'll trade Jake DeBrusk, and maybe they go Jake DeBrusk and
And the Canadians have been linked to the Brusque since the offseason.
So I could definitely see a
Very
situation.
interesting times for the Montreal Canadiens and their fan base.
But I could definitely see that happening. And again, like Jake DeBrusk, maybe he comes to Montreal and he turns his career around and he becomes a better player than when he was in Boston, if that happens. I don't know. I'm just throwing out trade scenarios now that could
And
happen.
again, Gordon did work for the Boston Bruins, so there must be a connection there as well. Same thing concerning the Rangers because he worked there. So that's another reason why maybe the
Chris, what do
Habs
you
I,
think?
may make
I
a deal.
I think the Boston goaltender would make more sense since there is a chance Price and Allen don't come back. Well, not that they don't come back. Well, Jake
Well,
Allen's what
Allen's
most
gonna come
likely.
back. It's Price that I'm
Well,
not
he's
sure.
most likely gonna get traded, I believe.
We'll
Like
see.
If
But
if
I
we're
don't know if
going
that's the move Swayman.
if they're going for 100% full rebuild, that means you have full confidence in Primo, and you're gonna bring in another goalie, and they're gonna develop, and we'll see where it goes.
yeah,
I
like a
That's
one
what
A
I
and a
think.
one B essentially. So Primo and Swayman, because Montembeau, no matter how much the hope or faith you have in this guy, because he had a couple of good
yeah.
games, he's not an NHL
I
goalie. He's
just
an AHL goalie at
I
most.
don't think personally that the Bruins would be really again. I think
Well,
Swayman.
listen, they have goalies. What do they need
Yeah,
him?
but I don't look. Here's the other thing too that you have to look at. Olmark's been decent this season. He's looked good at times, and he's been okay. Tuukka Rask has had his ups and downs. The problem with the Bruins is that you don't want to have a situation where you trade a young goalie in Jeremy Swayman who's got a lot of potential and is really good to go get a guy like Lehkonen and then turn around and Rask retires next year and now you don't have a goalie because you only have Olmark. What
Yeah,
I'm saying is for the Bruins, it doesn't, from the Bruins standpoint, it doesn't really make sense to trade a young goaltender of the future to go and get a player like Artturi Lehkonen to help you for a playoff run. Because let's be honest, I think if you're a Bruins fan, you know you're not winning the cup. It's not happening this season, in my
but
opinion. Right?
again, this on paper it seems to be their last run, especially with guys that need to be re-signed or people like Bergeron, Rask, and also with the fact that their core is aging.
Yeah,
Maybe they go all in this year and they're like, you know what, we're not going to be oblivious to the situation here. We know this could be our last time, so let's go
yes,
all in. Who
of
cares?
course.
So I mean, there's that to take. Oh my God, there's that to take also into consideration.
But
But we just want
I don't know if they trade. To me, Swayman, that one I don't. It's very
yeah,
unlikely. But that's
again,
just me personally.
it's just speculation. But we just
Yeah.
wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode. Huge shout out to Daniel Kim with all these questions today. It kept us on our toes. So we
Yes.
love interacting with our
We love the
subs.
interactions. We
Yeah,
do.
it's honestly amazing. But some of these questions will be addressed in future episodes, so don't worry about that. Or they already have been addressed in past episodes. So
Yes.
thank you once again. We were saying a joke before that like, our Wi-Fi's were not working individually. First it was Chris, then it was Luca, and then they're like, you know what, Chris, you're next. Well, guess what happened during the video? So we apologize for all like the Wi-Fi problems and stuff. So hopefully this is the first time this has essentially happened. So we'll make sure to address that
Hopefully,
problem.
you
But
guys enjoyed the video, anyways.
yeah, yeah. We hope you enjoy this video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel if you like NHL content. It's gonna be a hectic month and a half heading towards the NHL trade deadline. Go check out our previous video concerning the Marc-Andre Fleury trade rumors. We made a Chicago video about why they so bad. Check that out too. And we have a special video coming up tomorrow. So just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode.